Welcome to the Hospice Education Podcast. I'm Susie Scullion, Practice Educator at St Helena Hospice. Today I'm joined by Jenni Homewood, the Complementary Therapy and Wellness Lead at St Helena Hospice. Today we're exploring Namaste Care, a programme that is described as a person-centred, multi-sensory programme which delivers care and compassion for people with advanced dementia. We'll break down what it is and how it was developed, what the benefits are to deliver Namaste Care, and why it is making such a transformative impact in health and social care. Hi Jenni, welcome.
Hello Susie.
Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
So what exactly is Namaste Care?
That's a very good question to kick this off. Namaste Care, I would say when I first heard it, I didn't know what it was, but what it is and what I've discovered it was, is that it's a program that's been developed for people who live with advanced dementia. It focuses on that individual. It focuses a lot on the sensory experience and activity that they undertake with the aim of connecting with them, with the aim of bringing in some relaxation and calm in an environment that's suitable to deliver this.
Okay.
The word Namaste, although it is a word that people would relate to, say, a yoga or retreat experience, the reason the word Namaste was chosen by the person who developed it is one of the meanings is to honor the spirit within. So within those who have advanced dementia, who cannot necessarily speak or express themselves like they used to, it still honors that individual.
Okay.
So that's the sort of essence of what Namaste is hoping to bring.
And so you mentioned there for people with advanced dementia. Is it for anybody else? Who is Namaste Care for?
I think it can be for anybody that has a need to connect. Loneliness, isolation. Often when people have gone to live in a care home, I think they've faced a lot of loss. And so it's a way of reaching out to people who wouldn't naturally want to engage.
Sure. Amazing.
Yeah.
And so what happens during a Namaste session?
Oh, a Namaste session is quite structured. So when it was developed by a lady called Joyce Samad, she was a social worker from the United States, and she developed this program because she realized that people weren't able to connect, particularly with those with dementia. They were often seen as sitting in a corner and disengaging.
Sure.
And she developed this whole program because she wanted to be able to reach out to them. So she did this in 2003.
Okay.
And it was brought over to the UK in about 2014. And what she did was introduce a program which is very adaptable into care homes. So what would happen is the residents, if you're working in a care home specifically, but it's very adaptable, they would be invited into the Namaste Care room. Once they were there, they would have what Joyce called meaningful activities and loving touch approaches for a period of time. And then they would go through all the sensory activities. And we can talk about that a little later in the podcast. But it's basically about trying to sort of awaken up within them. So they'll think of music in the background. Music is very, very amazing with people with dementia.
I bet, yeah.
But they also think about the environment. What is the environment like? Is it comforting? Is it inviting? Is it warm? Is it friendly? So all of those aspects will be part of the preparation. So cushions and blankets and warmth, thinking about having some interesting things to eat, maybe some fresh fruit, maybe think about the seasons, think about the fragrances in the room. So you could either have a bunch of beautiful fragrant flowers, or you could have some aromatherapy oils burning in the background. It needs to be calm. It needs to be relaxing. So having various things that also bring an element of fun in, blowing bubbles, soft toys, particularly stuffed pets. Not real pets, of course, but you can bring real pets in. But you know how you get soft cats?
Yes.
They used a lot because there's that memory of touch and tactile experiences.
Okay.
And then once they've had their time there, they then go off to their next activity, which could be going for lunch or having a cup of tea in the lounge or back to their room, whatever it is. So it becomes almost an experience they get invited into with their experience, and then they go on to the next. And they do that, ideally, they do that every day for about an hour to 2 hours, depending on the time. Joyce would say do it twice a day, once in the afternoon and once in the morning. And again, that varies from home, residential home, care home, or if you're working with somebody on an individual basis. So it's adaptable. I think most people start with once, twice a week. Once they get a momentum going and they see the benefits that come out, then they can add more. A lot of it is getting people to think differently about care.
Okay, doke. So you mentioned benefits. So what are the benefits really to receiving Namaste care?
Well, obviously the people we're trying to reach are the people we want to experience the most. So I think for the residents who come in to a Namaste care experience, they come in, they feel welcomed, they've been seen as an individual, they've been heard as an individual, they get one-to-one attention, and some of that could include doing a lovely hand massage or putting some cream on somebody's face or brushing their hair.
Yeah.
You can incorporate some of the family members who want to come along into that. You would do some fun activities. So what you're hoping to do is build that connection. So I think for them, there is that opportunity to suddenly come out of that experience where they're locked in.
Yeah.
It might take time, but it's generally fun, it's generally relaxing, and it involves the individual approach to each person.
Okay.
So that's the benefit to those who are experiencing it. I mean, even talking about it, we're all thinking, oh, wow, I would love a hand massage.
I know, it sounds delightful.
But of course, you've got the staff.
Mm-hmm.
And the staff find that it gives them fresh eyes approach to how they deliver care.
Okay.
And with that, it's where they felt they didn't know how to reach somebody. They might find that they're building a connection. Maybe one day, maybe for 10 days, they don't have any connection again, but it slowly can unlock somebody because they're validating that individual. So as a care worker or somebody working with people like this, they get job satisfaction.
Okay.
They feel like they're making a difference. Whereas I think so many places there's so many protocols and tick boxes of activities that need to be done that I think it changes the way that they can deliver care and almost gets them to kind of think creatively.
Sure, and maybe a bit less stressful.
Oh,
as
definitely.
Well.
It's
Yeah,
less stressful because they're making that difference. I think one of the things they often say is the managers come back and will often say, wow, I'm hearing a lot about the Namaste Care Group. Can you tell us about it? All the families are hearing about it.
Yeah.
And it does make, if you're thinking about a care home, it makes them a standout care home to anybody around who isn't doing Namaste Care.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of stress out. It brings a lot of value into what they're doing. And also it's an enjoyable activity.
Yeah.
And over time, they really get to know their residents in a different way.
Yeah, that's
so
beautiful.
I think that's quite key, knowing the resident as much as possible, using the facilities that are out there, the This Is Me forms, and finding out from the families more about their life and what they used to do and their interests as well. I think they can help to bring that in some of the activities and the things that they do with the individuals.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so how do we as practitioners, how can do we need to be trained to deliver Namaste care?
Well, as I said to you, when I first came across Namaste care, I'd never heard of it, and I discovered that there was some training available at St Christopher's Hospice in London. and they used to run these workshops. So I went along there and learned something that just blew my mind away, I suppose is the best way to put it. It was so interesting to learn a program that has now got research backing it. So there's research to say, this is what a Namaste program does. These are the benefits, these are the research outcomes. And I think from when Joyce brought it over, say 12 years ago, it's really taken off.
Yes.
I think you do need to attend some kind of workshop or training. There are books out there. There's a lot of information on the internet, as we know. But I think bringing a group of people who work with elderly people or work in residential homes, nursing homes, care homes, even people who work with in areas where palliative care, end of life care, or special needs care. I think it's able to translate into that. But what we do in the training, what we fundamentally look at, and I think it's always helpful for anybody, is to look at what dementia is and how it affects that individual. And I think a lot of research is showing that it really affects the senses, that people can have sort of see things incorrectly. For example, if they had dementia and they walk into a lift and it's got a black carpet, they'll see it as a black hole. So it's learning to understand and see through the eyes of somebody who has dementia. And that's quite difficult, although there have been some individuals who have written books about it, and they've been able to share where they had early onset dementia, being able to articulate and share what their experiences are.
Sure.
So understanding the needs of the person with dementia or the people that we're working with is really important, because then you can start planning activities around the protocol that Namaste has built into, and that will involve having to think about how you prepare a Namaste event or a room, and also how you're going to bring in meaningful activities. That was something Joyce is very keen on, meaningful activities, not just an activity for activity's sake, but also how you can bring that in. So, for example, bringing in a soft toy that looks like a dog. She has one that's a puppet, and she can bring that to life and make it fun and make them giggle and laugh. But also it's non-threatening. Also, touch is so crucial to Namaste care. A lot of elderly people and a lot of people who live with dementia, they are touch starved. That's not because people have forgotten them, but because they've forgotten themselves and lost in themselves, and they become very withdrawn. And actually, to be honest, sometimes people don't know how to approach or break that. So touch is really crucial. So we teach people how to do a very simple hand massage. We think about the products we use. If they have a favorite cream, say they have a lovely lavender cream, then incorporate that in there. So a lot of that will be building the confidence of the care workers who've never done anything like that before.
Absolutely, yeah.
But also to not think that they know nothing, because they bring a lot of experience with them. Also, we find that a lot of care homes, there are different cultures, and different cultures have different approaches to care. And all of that, when you bring into a room of people learning about the Namaste program, you bring all that experience, all that knowledge and everything. Everybody has something to contribute. And everybody goes away with something fresh and new in their mind. When I run a workshop, what I tend to do is go through the program. We unpick dementia. We kind of look at how the senses get affected. We then look at a beautiful video that's out there about, that was part of research, is a Namaste care program in action. So people going through it, talking to the family members. And then we have a session where we learn some touch. I teach a hand massage. We also give them the access to foot massage, but often people don't want their feet out in a workshop, so we tend not to do that. But I have also introduced something called story massage. It's sort of my contribution to Namaste care. And it's used with children a lot of the time, but it's actually having a story, and then you have these very simple moves that you can do while somebody's sitting in a chair or on their hand and their arm. So you can have maybe find out a story about their past and bring that in, or it could be a nursery rhyme. They will remember the nursery rhymes.
Sure.
So they might have a dog or a pet, so you could bring in Spot the dog. I mean, it could be all sorts of things. I remember when I was growing, it was Janice and John going to fetch some water up the hill, or was that?
Oh yeah, Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill.
But you could certainly, bring something in, and what that does is it touches into their memory, because it's something that they will remember, because dementia is like a bookcase. People have lost all their memories from recent years, but they remember particularly probably from about their late teens to early 30s is a very key age that people often remember. And often you see their behaviour when they have forgotten stuff. So, for example, a lady might have grown up where she put the kettle on the cooker.
Okay.
And then you might suddenly notice you want to put the electric kettle on. So it's thinking out, why does she think she does that? Because years ago, probably when she was a young woman, that's what she did.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of understanding all of that to give you that approach. And then how can you build some touch therapy in? And it's also one of the things when you watch Joyce Simard, when she talks about it, it's actually really seeing that individual. So if you're going to apply some cream to their skin, saying, oh, you have such beautiful skin.
Oh, that's so
or
lovely.
if you're doing a hand massage, what beautiful hands you've got. I wonder what these hands have done. And so you're really connecting with that individual, not just doing a hand massage because that's good. You're actually really focusing on the individual. And some of the feedback, and particularly you notice it with partners or husbands and wives, where maybe their husband had gone into a care home and he started to go to a Namaste care room, and he had hand massages and all these lovely drinks and fragrances and attention. And where he was previous maybe a little aggressive, that has stopped.
Wow.
And they notice it. And that makes care, if you go back to what the benefits are for those who are delivering the care, that makes it easier for them to deliver the care.
Absolutely.
That brings that calm in, it brings that relaxation. But also they're seen as an individual, and obviously they're trained in how to work in these difficult situations, but you're just bringing in a new way and a fresh way of bringing some care in, and it's just so rewarding for them.
That's beautiful.
And you can hear, as we're talking about it, we're sort of really caught up in that, and it's just really precious. But I think the other thing to think about when you're doing a workshop is how they can take back this protocol to their workplace.
Sure, that was my next question, actually. So what do they need anything to be able to
so what we do,
this?
or what I would do with somebody is often say, well, what do you think you might need? I mean, they might need, obviously they need to learn how to do a hand massage. They might need to think about maybe the drinks they're going to do, maybe bring in smoothies. I know some care homes who make smoothies, so they're bringing in fresh fruit. But hydration is so key. And one of the benefits to the residents from Namaste, which came almost as a surprise, which it shouldn't be, because they were focusing on the hydration, they noticed that those who attended the Namaste Care program, they suddenly stopped having UTIs. Because they were having more hydration, they were drinking more water.
Amazing.
And the subsequent to that, think long term down the road, they weren't having to medicate them because they were drinking more. So just the focus. So there's a cost element in that. So that's really, one example.
Oh, that's fab.
The other thing that I think, just repeat the question back to me, Susie.
Well, it was just to see if
what they need,
if the care providers need anything.
So generally they sit and they go, well, we've got a room and we've got cushions and we've got blankets, and they said maybe we could get a trolley, or we can always go and pick flowers, or somebody can bring flowers in. I mean, they need to have a team. I think they need to find people who really buy into this idea. And then they just need to think about all aspects of what they want to introduce that particularly important to their care home and their people that they're looking after, because everybody will be different. There are some care homes who might have maybe more things available to them, and they might be able to put on something really swishy. But that doesn't mean to say that a care home that maybe doesn't have that, they can do something just as amazing with what they have. So you don't need a lot. I often get them to say, write down what you need and write down what you think you might need, but also say to them, you might think about a foot spa. Well, go down to your local charity shop, see if they've got any foot spas, or things that you can bring, do a bring and buy with the family members. Say, look, we want to run this Namaste, we're looking for these items. And it's just trying to keep some of the ideas fresh. But I often say to those, when we're working with people with dementia, every Namaste care experience is a new experience to them.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they don't necessarily think, oh, I did this last week, because it's just coming into a new experience.
Yeah.
So if you blow bubbles a lot and they love it, that's great.
Keep going.
Some people bring in sand and different things, maybe different times of the year. When I have groups of people in, they often say to me, oh, I think we're doing this because of the activities that they bring in. They often say, oh, we do this and we've tried this. And I say, well, now give it a name. Call it Namaste Care. Instead of saying it's an activity, you're actually doing
Defining
a Namaste Care program.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sort of gives you that kind of like, oh, okay. And then create that. So it almost gives them license to go ahead and say, right, we're doing a Namaste Care. So it gives them that framework.
Yeah.
And although there are certain things that we suggest they bring in, the pampering, the touch, sound and smells, all of that, it's about them going away and making that individual to their care home and what they feel they can deliver. So kind of think creatively, don't get stuck in a box with this. What else? That's why I added story massaging, because I thought that just makes such sense to me.
And therefore you're able to personalise it even further.
Yes.
So that's
and
great.
There's a lovely video that I show of a daughter working with mum, and they're talking about their dog and their dog going for a walk, and it's just so lovely. And as she's talking about the dog, and it's in actually the story massage kind of resource library. This mum just giggles and laughs, and what it does, it brings the mum and daughter together, and that's a great thing to bring into a Namaste care room. It doesn't just have to be the carers and the workers there. Get the families involved, get volunteers involved. If the grandkids are coming along, get them to do something for gran or grandpa or whoever it is that they're seeing. It's just quite, I don't want to use the word simple because that sounds like it's taking away, but it's a very simple approach that has enormous effect.
Fabulous. And so what makes, I mean, you've kind of just said it, I was going to say, what makes Namaste care different from other dementia care approaches?
I think it's that person-centered approach. It's that, I mean, some of the places where I've trained, they've started off with 2 people coming into their Namaste care room. It doesn't have to be for a group of 20 people. In fact, that would be really hard to manage, I would imagine. But just a few people where you take those individuals out and you focus on that person in front of you. And then you think about, what can I bring in? What loving touch can I bring? And of course, the hand massage is a lovely way of bringing that. Even if you sat and held your hand over somebody's, because it might take a bit of trust to build up. Think about what you're going to use. So in a way, you're bringing something to them that just makes a difference. And think about the senses, because the research is showing that the senses get dulled down when people suffer with dementia. So their hearing's not so great, and maybe their sight. So think about how you place things. Think about the colours that you use. That example I said about a black mat on the floor to somebody with dementia will look like a hole. So think about the colours of your room. Think about the lighting, not lightning. But also, when you're focusing in the middle of all this on relaxation, towards the end, you want to up the music. You want to think about the music. Maybe you've got people who grew up in the 50s and 60s, so you want to put a bit of Elvis on, maybe.
Absolutely.
You want to kind of say, right, it also marks the end of the session.
That makes sense.
So now we're getting them ready to move on to the next activity, so they know that something next is going to happen. Now, music is fascinating. I always bring in elements of music because I think it's the one area that people have found that happens organically. You know, a son will be with his father in the car playing a bit of old, you know, Nat King Cole or whatever it might be, and dad suddenly starts to sing. And I think there was a case actually in the UK of a chap who used to go out with his dad, because when they were in the car, they connected and dad sang, and they actually made an album, and they
I saw that, and they did it on YouTube, didn't they? I think that was amazing.
Fascinating. And some care homes and that, they bring in people who can do a little bit of music, and I have a little video I show of a lady who's just playing those sort of like
xylophone,
sort of ding-a-ling things, you know, where they're ping, ping, ping. And then she prays, and he made a little song up about her and Joyce, and suddenly she said, oh, you've brought me back to life.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's goosebumpy,
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so, it's thinking about that. It's focusing on that individual and what can you do that's going to be meaningful to them. So I could give you a list of things, but to be honest, that limits it. I think it's just thinking about what's out there. There's some great books that have recently been published in the UK by Nicola Kendall. She's done one on Namaste care, which describes the whole practical guide, but she has also made a book called the Namaste Care Activity Book, because we know that all care homes particularly have various activities, sensory stories and activities, and just documented it. And I think that's the other thing. Whatever, if you're going to engage in this, start documenting the success stories.
Okay.
They're little things that pop up now and again. It could be somebody remembers their daughter's name.
Yeah.
Or just suddenly has a memory flashback, because that's often what happens with dementia. What we're kind of doing through the Namaste Care program is kind of almost unlocking that a little bit with them.
Amazing.
So it takes patience, it takes time. It doesn't have to be all singing and dancing. It can be quite simple, but caring and loving.
Okay.
And
So what would you say the heart of Namaste care
the
is?
heart of Namaste. Well, I guess if I had to say what is the heart, I have to go back to what Joyce said, which was, first of all, it was to honour the spirit within, to honour that within that individual. But also it's about recognising, as I said, that individual, its dignity, its presence, its kindness, its humanity, and not. I think there's often a thing we see, particularly people with dementia will get to end of life, and a very palliative focus we have is that we are helping people to live until they take their last breath. And I think Namaste Care demonstrates that so well, because you're focusing on that individual until they take their last breath and making a huge impact in their life that you may never know.
Amazing.
But it's there.
Listen, Jenny, thank you so much for coming to talk to me about the Namaste care. Whatever our roles are in caring for people, honouring the spirit within, the core value of Namaste care demonstrates person-focused compassion at its best.
Yeah.
I hope this episode inspires you to explore and consider how meaningful activities can transform care.
Thank you.